struggling to move your nonprofit forward? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Nonprofit Architect, where we are giving you the actionable steps you need to launch and grow your nonprofit organization. Now, here's your host, Travis Johnson.
Welcome to the Nonprofit Architect Podcast, helping you build a stronger nonprofit. I'm your host, Travis Johnson, and I'm here today with a fellow podcaster and Marine Corps veteran, Stephen Cohen. Stephen, welcome. How are you today?
Mr. Travis, I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
You know what? I am doing just fine. Happy to connect with you across oceans and 8 time zones to talk today about a few different things. But let's give me a rundown of this podcast you host, the Knucklehead Podcast. What's that all about?
Knucklehead Podcast was started as kind of a side project, really. I spent almost 10 years in the military, and I had a few of those years that were active duty. I had a really incredible time while I was in, learning how to fit within a team. My background prior to joining the Marine Corps was athletics. So being part of a team or leading a team or leading units within a team wasn't a foreign concept to me. I could always take orders pretty well, although I may have not always liked listening to other people tell me what to do. I was at least used to that way of learning. So getting out of the military, I realized that I wanted to start a business. I mean, I always wanted to start a business. I've always been an entrepreneur. However, I haven't always had a business to run. So I was in somebody else's business, running a business, and I didn't have a whole lot of exposure to consultants whenever I was first getting kind of my feet wet in the business world. I could always sell, could always kind of talk with folks, but I didn't understand the correlation between consultants who had a specialized skill set and helping a business accomplish their goal. So my most recent kind of corporate experience prior to starting this podcast was with a food wholesaler who was developing a technology around their business. They wanted to be an industry resource. Well, changing the paradigm in an industry is difficult. Changing the paradigm and how people make decisions is a very difficult thing to do, although people do it all the time. There's a change management process that you can go through and you can follow, and you may or may not be successful, but somebody has done it before. And anyway, long story short, there was a human resources component to the business that I was a part of. They wanted everybody to get along. There was like this kumbaya type of thought process that they had to everything. And that's just not the way the world works. At least that's not the way that the world works that I'm familiar with, especially in sales, because you're going out there trying to beat down doors. You're coming up with copy that makes, doors swing and phones ring, like my buddy Eric Bakey likes to say. And you're out there trying to like hook and jab out there in the marketplace. Well, that's completely backwards to the way human resources think and the way that everybody wants to get along and let's celebrate diversity and let's all sing kumbaya. It just doesn't work that way. So anyway, it ruffled my feathers a little bit that the woman who was in charge of this at that corporation was lying to my boss about some things that were going on our team. So when I confronted her about it, it kind of came to a head and I got really, really irritated. And I texted my wife exactly how I felt about what this woman was doing. And I said some choice words and probably some things that I shouldn't be saying. Turns out though that I was actually texting this woman instead of my wife.
Oh no!
So what Knucklehead Podcast is it came as a genesis from that particular event, because I felt like what happens is people are under so much pressure and stress sometimes that they have to perform or try to be perfect. And Knucklehead was about telling the stories in the business world day in and day out of the things that people have screwed up, the mistakes that they've made, and creating an atmosphere and a culture and an environment where it's okay to share those things instead of trying to be perfect all the time, because in spite of those mistakes, you can still accomplish some pretty incredible things. So we've been able to have some really cool folks come on and share their screw-ups, their mistakes, and their failures. We're starting to get some traction, helping businesses actually formulate a business development and lead generation strategy. So that's a long-winded answer of telling you exactly what Knucklehead Podcast is.
Well, I don't think it's a long-winded answer, so to speak. It's definitely an interesting story, but definitely you hit the nail on the head when you said that we're supposed to be. We have this perception that we're supposed to be perfect, and I don't know about everyone else out there. I don't know about my listeners or whatever, but man, I mess stuff up every single day. Like if I've been up for 2 hours and I haven't messed up 5 things, I mean, what am I even doing? Am I just sitting there, not getting out of bed, not having thoughts, not working on business, not having conversations, not doing anything? I'm sure you're the same way. You know, everything you try, every step you try to take, you stumble, you fall, you bump into things. Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's the way we learn, the way we grow, all that stuff.
That's exactly right. And in today's business world, and it's not even just the business world. In today's world, I think the pace of change is it's happening at such a breakneck pace that if you're not putting yourself in an environment where I kind of started the answer to your last question about making reference to my time in the military or my time on an athletic team, both of those scenarios are, first of all, you're not stagnant. You're moving. You're moving forward. You're either developing a new skill or you're learning something that is applicable to whatever your job is or whatever your assignment is. And yes, there is kind of a standard to getting it done, but then there's also this assumption that you have to be doing it perfect in order to actually get it done correct. And that's just, it's not that way. I worked with an engineer. He was an engineer, the director of the engineering team at the last company that I worked with. And he had this phrase that was so simple. He was like, done is better than perfect. And I was like, oh man, that's awesome. And then you start to go, okay, well, if done is better than perfect, and you have this kind of less than standard way of getting things done, then you have at least something to base your performance off of. And if your goal is to improve it, then that's a completely separate conversation than just trying to get something done. You know what I mean? So yes, I agree with what you're saying. Unless you're screwing things up, unless you're out there in the marketplace, unless you're doing something every day, well, first of all, you just know that you're going to screw up. And if you're going to be getting anything done significant, you better be screwing up a lot, but learning from it too.
Yeah, that's one of the old adages. You're like, why do you do so well? Oh, because of experience. Well, how do you get experience? You get experience by trying, right? By attempting over and over and over again. And success is really built on a mountain of failures. You fail forward, you fail your way up. You get some kind of 70, 80% solution, and you move forward with it. You take action, you take the steps. I mean, the thing that you're doing is not a one-time thing. It's not a one and done. You're going to do the thing again. So you take the 80% solution, you take some steps, you get knocked around, you tweak it, you learn some things, you get some coaching, you take some more action. Now you got a 85, 90% solution. And the more you do it, the more repetition you get, the stronger you get, the better the delivery, the better execution, and then the better results. I know I talked to you before starting this podcast because you were gracious enough to have me on your show, the Knucklehead Podcast, a few months ago. And you said when you did your first couple of episodes, they weren't very good. Here I am recording episode number 4 myself, and I haven't launched any of these yet. This is all pre-recorded material. But now, just a few episodes in, you're like, right at 80, something like that, 80 episodes?
Yep.
You're already at a top 300 podcast, and that's awesome.
It's exciting. I appreciate that. No, it's fun. And you're going to learn a lot too in your podcasting journey. There's going to be things that you'll notice, you'll start to pick up. You'll see things that other podcasters are doing or other businesses are doing or other opportunities for folks to do things better just because they don't have your perspective. And so if you give them your perspective, they'll be able to take action on it and improve their performance. So I'm excited for you. It's a fun endeavor. And I'd encourage those folks who are listening, whether they're in the nonprofit or profit space, to don't be shy. Just reach out, either myself or to Travis or somebody else, some other guest that he has on his show. There's a substantial amount of value and experience that's exchanged here whenever folks are talking. And it's kind of incumbent upon you, to take action and reach out and connect and go from there. So I'm excited that you had me on, man.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks for being here and making the time. And you hit that right. It's about connecting and building that relationship. In a digital world with social media, you can reach out, especially to Stephen or myself or anyone else on my show, or just about any show. They put their contact info in the show notes for a reason. They want you to contact them. They want to make a connection. They want to talk about theory and how it works. They want to sell products and services, of course, but building that relationship is what it's all about. I'm at 19 years in the military. Stephen said that he did 10. And the best time to start building relationships is now. I'm going to retire here in a few years. And if I waited till the day I retired to get on LinkedIn and start building relationships, well, then I'm behind, right? I'm way behind the curve. I'm not doing it right. Reach out, talk to people, build relationships, connect, especially if you're in the nonprofit world. Your connections is how you succeed. If you show me your network, I'll tell you your net worth.
That's exactly right. You had kind of began this conversation around the nonprofit world, and I want to put a disclaimer out there. I do not run a nonprofit. I'm a capitalist. I believe wholeheartedly in the exchange, whether of information or products or services, and in exchange for that, you get paid. And I'm not saying that in the nonprofit world that doesn't happen. However, I want to be very transparent with you to let you know that our business is designed to create value in the marketplace, and if there's enough value, then I would ask for some dollars and cents to be thrown our direction in exchange for that value.
Now you run a t-shirt business on the side in conjunction with your podcast, right? You want to tell me about that a little bit?
In order to get your message out there, you have to have this thing called marketing. You have to be able to market your product or service. And in the beginning, our show was was essentially our only product. The thing is it's still a show. It's anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes of somebody's time that they can go and listen to this particular show. And what I started to realize is if people were interested in not just listening to the show, but then also kind of touting the fact that they listen to the show. I mean, I grew up loving the Dallas Cowboys, and I remember always wanting to wear a Dallas Cowboy jersey or a hat or a t-shirt. I may as well have something available for folks to be able to purchase if they wanted to support the podcast. So what I did is I sunk a few $100s into some inventory, and those folks who were fortunate enough to be on the first 40 episodes or so of our podcast, I just asked them what size their shirt was, and I sent it to them. And what we found is the more that folks were asked to take pictures of the shirts or send me a tag on social media of you wearing it, whatever, the less they did it. So it wasn't that they were completely bought into the thought process or the show. So what we decided to do was stop asking them. We just told people where they could get the shirts. And as it turns out, the more that folks started listening to the show, the more that shirts started to sell. And what we found is if we can put our slogan or what we believe on our show and tell folks what it is that we mean when we say it, and we have podcast episodes to back up and explain in depth on what exactly we mean when we say don't be beta or get some wins, then people can start wearing it. And what we found is there's some guys who've gone into, like, there's some mortgage brokers who've been on the show, and in their mortgage business, they go talk to city officials, and they go talk to kind of these prim and proper folks that have suits every day to work, and they'll wear the "Don't Be Beta" shirt into the city office as a way to, just let the city office know that, hey, listen, I'm here to take action. I'm interested in finding some properties, and they'll go and they'll tell people exactly what they feel. And so I like that people can wear exactly how they feel on their shirt, and it can be an extension of whatever their product or service is, by having a high quality product or service anyway. You know what I mean?
I've been in contact and consulting with several nonprofits, and what I found interesting is that most of them don't have online stores. Most of them don't have a swag shop. You can't go get a t-shirt with their logo, likeness, or sayings on it. And I've been asking all the people I've had, pre-conversations with, pre-podcast conversations or in their podcasts. I'm like, so you don't have a store? Why not? You don't want people to give you money while you're sleeping? And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, if you go to bed or go out for dinner and wake up and you have t-shirt orders sitting in your inbox and you made $25, $50, $200 overnight, do you think that would help your nonprofit? And they say, well, I guess I really didn't think of it that way, or think about, yeah, you don't have to be actively searching for donors in order for people to buy your stuff. And I know you're a big fan of having something available for sale.
If people like what you have to say, or if people are interested in something that you're doing and you're not giving them the opportunity to consume more of you, then you're actually robbing yourself of an opportunity to create income, but you're also robbing them the opportunity to consume more of you or your product, right? And there's processes and systems that you can follow in order to get more sophisticated about it. But the long and short of it is, the more simple you can make it, the better. And the cool thing about today's business world is there's technology solutions that are out there that can help you. You don't even have to have a website. You can go spend $30 a month and get a Shopify thing set up, and you can create an image of what your product might look like, and you don't even have to have fulfillment set up. I mean, you could literally take a picture on your iPhone or Galaxy, depending on which way you swing. You could put that image up on a Shopify cart, pay $30 a month, and have literally like clockwork. And all you got to do is make posts every so often that substantiate your existence in the marketplace, and people have the opportunity to support you. I think we were talking a little bit earlier, and I like how you came up with your analogy of the NFL. Honestly, it's a really good point. I've never received a paycheck from the Dallas Cowboys, and I can't tell you how many Dallas Cowboys shirts I have in my drawers at home. But they make money, right? They make money off of licensing, and so there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with doing the same thing.
And they're a nonprofit too, which is just mind blowing with how many billions of dollars they make every year. But as much as we hate labels, we love identifying with something. You and I both have kids, and we identify with being a dad. You and I are both married, and we identify, with being husbands. You and I are both in the military, and we both identify as being veterans. You like a 1-star rated team based on the logo. And so you identify, with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, and I would identify myself as a Minnesota Vikings fan. And I have jerseys and swag and different things that when I go to a game, or I'm watching a game on the weekends, or I'm casually walking around, I let people know that I'm a Vikings fan, just like you let them know you're a Dallas Cowboys fan. Yep. And brands are so big and so huge that people don't realize that it's marketing. It's giving people that like your thing a chance to identify with you. Like, I'm working on building my own T-shirts right now, and I'm kind of wanting to call it quotables and have it be quotes from my podcast guests, such as yourself, and then that you would split the profits with me. Or if you run a nonprofit, that I would give a portion of the sales to donate to your nonprofit to help, not just me, but to help you out and have it something bigger than myself. And you can identify with some of the crazy quotes and be a part of the journey with me.
Yeah, that's a revenue sharing type scenario. That's a legitimate strategy for helping substantiate a new business. You partner with somebody who's got already an existing presence, and it's a strategy that you can use to parlay both y'all's future efforts, and you part with future profits together. It's a great business model. And when I say it's a great business model, it's a business model that can work. It takes work.
So you've got the podcasting going on, you've got the T-shirts going, and we talked before, you're doing something interesting with your boys. You're showing them how to make money. You want to tell me about that a little bit?
So I've got two boys. One's 8, the other one's 5. And when my 8-year-old turned 6, he asked me the question. He said, "Dad, what is money?" That conversation and that question spurred a conversation. And I had heard from some entrepreneurs in the past that they wanted to be able to develop their children's decision-making as it relates to finances to be more entrepreneurial than job-oriented. And not that there's anything wrong with having a job-oriented view on finances. I wanted them to be more dynamic when it came to decision-making, when it came to finances. So, for instance, I find that people who have money in the bank are less susceptible to going and putting that money into an asset because there's emotions that they may have around that money that's in the bank. And I still find myself, feeling weird about it from time to time. But that's because I had a bad way of thinking about it for so many years. or maybe a not productive way of thinking about it. So I didn't want to give my son that same type of mental stigma about parting with fun or parting with money. So I wanted to create an exercise for him to understand a little bit about how money worked and how cash flow worked, and fitting a need out in the marketplace, and investing in an asset and having that create income for him. So a natural thing for a little kid to be able to want to have is candy. So why not put money into an asset like a candy machine, and you have the ability then to take your money also and invest in another asset, which is inventory. And that inventory then can start to generate cash for him. And he can start to have this understanding about how the economics work of running a business at an early age. And he can start to develop just some more sophisticated and mature thinking about it at an earlier age, so he can create more opportunities for himself later on in life. And so we started a candy business. We actually loaned him his first $100, bought him his candy business. I don't expect him to pay the loan back. I don't want to get into all the contracts and all that crap. I really just wanted to simply just have him understand that he didn't have $100. He talked to me about this. We decided to come together and use our brains, which is how business operates and how things work. So we used our brains together to go out there and come up with a solution. And that solution was, let's go and find $100. We happen to have some in our account. Let's go and invest in an asset. Let that asset then be placed out in the marketplace, and then go and invest in inventory, and then let him go through the process of finding that person or funding that company, finding that partner where he could go and have that candy machine start making money for him. And so he's been able to develop almost $1,000 worth of revenue for himself, in the couple of years that he's had a few candy machines, and he's doing some cool things about it. And it's a cool thing that he can work on with his younger brother. It's now Kidpreneur Candy. It was just Candy Monster when it was just Mason, but now it's both him and his brother kind of running that together, and it's fun. I mean, it's cool. We set some goals together. We kind of work towards some things. It could be done better, but the whole idea behind it is to create a solid foundation for him on making money and thinking about finances.
Well, and I got to imagine that's way better than you paying him allowance for sweeping the floor out of pocket. He's out meeting with different business owners, and he's pitching. He's under 10 and he's selling his candy business, and he's being told yes, and he's being told no, probably no thank you, right? He's learning lessons far beyond just business. As it takes money to make money, or it takes to an investment in an asset. He's learning how to interact with people. He's like, what this lobby really needs? It really needs candy.
The biggest differentiator, I believe, for him, and it's not going to be just his generation, but I see this more and more with younger folks. They're less apt to take the initiative to start a conversation, and so I want him to be able to, both him and his brother, to be able to, feel comfortable enough to talk to anybody, whether they're 90 or 9, on really anything. And the best way to do that I've found is just start asking questions. And so, the first thing he does whenever he walks into a store, if he's wanting to prospect him, is, "Hey, Matt, please speak to the manager." Right. So he's asking a question to somebody who doesn't know who he is, and naturally their answer back to that is, "Well, why?" Right. And so then he has an answer for that. And then, so we've kind of gone through this kind of conversational sequence, and he's done it enough times to where he can do it either without me, or he can do it with me standing right there. And I don't answer. I let him do it and sit in the awkwardness and grow from that.
Sit in the awkwardness. How many people in the nonprofit space looking to get more donations could learn from Mason, the young man trying to grow his candy business? That you have to ask questions, sit in the awkwardness, and be prepared for follow-on and follow-up questions, and have to be comfortable in that space. How powerful is that?
I think that there's there's really anybody that can apply that lesson, but there's a lot of younger folks that, as they get older, the kids that start at a younger age and they start to develop that skill set's really going to separate them from anybody else as they continue to get older. And that's really an opportunity that I wanted my kids to be able to do that. I've seen some parents do some really cool things, and I've just tried to take a little bit from those that I have respect for and just apply it in our family. And we still screw up all the time. I mean, I haven't had a conversation with him about inventory and cash flow and all that stuff for, a month. I mean, summer's been crazy. It's not like I didn't have the opportunity to, but at the same time, we haven't done it just because time gets away from you. You know what I mean?
Oh, I definitely understand, but taking time off and recharging it has its value too. So I wanted to ask, where do you see the vision of your podcast and your t-shirts? Where do you picture yourself in 5 years? Where do you want to be?
There's 4 stages to our process. Whenever we onboard a new client, we take them through a 4-step process in order to actually end up with the net result is they have a new show and they have a sophisticated content distribution strategy on how to help them gain traction out in the marketplace. Right. So the second stage of that stage is called audio video capture. Right. And so that audio video capture, in my opinion, is where the most value is created for people who don't know who you are yet, or people who don't know you well enough. And so I believe with the way that marketing and the way that the industry is pumping out material that substantiates the use of a podcast in a business, all it does is lend itself perfectly to somebody who knows how to do it and do it pretty well. So I think in the next 3 to 5 years, I think 5 years is a little much for me to be able to be crystal clear on what I see the business doing. I'd say more closer to 3 years. I'd say 3 years from now, I mean, there's going to be about 100 to 150 clients who've used our service and have been able to grow their shows and create this new sources, new streams of revenue with their voice, that they're going to be able to essentially bring dead leads to life and whisper their business's human voice into the ears of those prospects and convert them. I truly believe that using podcasts in order to help grow your business and for it to be kind of the central piece of your marketing strategy, that's where things are going. So I think more and more businesses that would not have had a digital presence whatsoever, wholesalers, service providers who are kind of restricted to their geographical area. I think that the more that they learn how to use this digital tool, they can use their voice and grow their business at the same time. And that's what Knucklehead, I think the future of Knucklehead is more in the KH Consulting or the Knucklehead Promotions into the business. That's the business that we actually run is Knucklehead Promotions. And Knucklehead Podcast is our flagship show, but at the same time, helping other folks get kind of crack the nut of this podcasting thing is that's what I'm going to spend the next 3 years doing.
That's awesome. And I think that's a great vision for you to have. How can me or my team or my listeners help you, support you, contribute to you and your vision? What do you need?
I think the best thing that they can do is decide whether or not if they like podcasts, or if they like listening to folks, if they want to flip on the radio, if they want to listen to somebody who understands that screwing up mistakes is something that they do, and that maybe they're not bold and courageous enough to go and talk about it, but they want to listen to enough other people talk about the things that they've screwed up, to give Knucklehead Podcast an opportunity. If us being bold enough to talk about the things that we've screwed up is valuable enough to maybe earn a subscribe, then go and do that. Go subscribe to the show. But then don't just stop there. Tell us why this show sucks, or tell us why the show's awesome, or tell us what you learned from one of our guests. Leave a review. Because what will happen is, as you subscribe and as you review, what will happen is you'll start to begin this dialogue and start a relationship, and you'll start to kind of craft your own and cultivate like your own interests as it relates to podcasting. And it's not even just podcasts. You'll start to see that we promote our guests' products or services. So you'll start to uncover new businesses that you didn't even know that existed, or new products that you could purchase, or somebody else that you can go subscribe to on Instagram, and you could slide into their DMs if you have a tax issue. We've had tax consultants that are coming on that are saving people hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on their taxes, and we've had people who failed in business, and you can reach out to them if you're on the brink of starting a business but want to know how things could go wrong, or if you're in the industry like food and you want to get around somebody who's been able to market themselves as kind of an expert in that business. I mean, we've had a woman she's won all types of competitions that have come on to the show. So whatever your flavor is, I think that we have something for you. Or if you're a business that wants to know how to do this, you can connect with me. We actually can help you get that set up and help you with some things that are going to be time wasters and help you kind of get rid of those and glean some learning lessons from the things that we've screwed up at the beginning of our endeavor, and then actually help you productize and monetize through potentially a service offering or some type of product offering like we did with our business. So if you think that Don't Be Beta is a cool way to walk around and put it on your chest, then go buy a t-shirt. That'd be cool.
That's fantastic, Stephen, and definitely look forward to helping you out in the future and helping you build your vision. How can people connect with you?
That's a good question. So my email address is Stephen, Stephen, at knuckleheadpodcast.com. So it's Stephen at knuckleheadpodcast.com. You can follow us on Instagram over at Knucklehead Podcast. You can get in touch with me on LinkedIn, Stephen : Stephen. Last name is Colon, just like the body part, Colon. Remember, life would be a pain in the ass without a hardworking colon. Forgive my language there, Travis. But you can get with us on LinkedIn, also at Knucklehead Promotions. Connect with us on Facebook at Knucklehead Promotions. We're even on Twitter at Pod Knuckle. So we have, at Knuckle Pod. I always screw that one up. So yeah, Twitter, we're over at Knuckle Pod.
Well, hey, it was great having you on and great to reconnect with you. Love having you on the show. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast and being my close personal friend.
Yeah, you bet, bud. Absolutely. I appreciate you having me. It was an honor.
You've been listening to The Nonprofit Architect. To listen to all our past shows, visit http://nonprofitarchitect.org. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our show. Thank you.